Tsipori National Park. Journey through time, embrace centuries of heritage. Tsipori National Park stands as a living testament to Israel's multifaceted history. From its Roman theaters to its Byzantine mosaics, every corner of Tsipori whispers tales of ancient civilizations, religious milestones, and cultural intersections. As the once capital of the Galilee and the birthplace of the Mishnah, Tsipori invites visitors to step into a world where the past resonates vibrantly with the present. Tsipori was once the capital of the Galilee and the seat of the Sanhedrin. Here the Mishnah was redacted by Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. Ceremonies take place in the ancient synagogue with its marvelous mosaic floor, constructed during the 5th century CE. 16 miles all around Tsipori is a land flowing with milk and honey. The hill of Tsipori is located in the western Lower Galilee at 289 meters above sea level, among the limestone hills between the Tsipori stream in the south and the Bet Netofa Valley in the north. It is surrounded by fertile valleys that were easy to cultivate and to traverse. One of these valleys through which Tsipori stream flows is enriched by the Tsipori Springs. Remains of a magnificent city were discovered here. They include a system of streets, public building dwellings, a theater, a central market, bathhouses, synagogue, and churches, mainly dating from the Roman and Byzantine periods, and a fortress and a church from the Crusader period. The system of aqueducts east of the city included channels, a gigantic water reservoir, a tunnel, and a pool. Cemeteries are scattered around the ancient city, among them a tomb purported to be that of Rabbi Hanassi, the redactor of the Mishnah. So, why is it called Tsipori? Because it is perched on top of the mountain like a bird. The above Talmudic tradition, notwithstanding the source of the city's name is not clear. The Romans called it Diocasiria, the city of the god Zeus and of Caesar. During the Crusader period, it was called Le Safori, a name that was preserved in that of the Arab village established here. Mushab Tsipori, founded in 1949, took the ancient Hebrew name. History of Tsipori. Tsipori is mentioned for the first time during the reign of Alexander Zaneus. However, some archaeological findings at the site date to the First Temple period, indicating the existence of an earlier settlement during that time. In 63 BC, the country was conquered by the Roman army under Pompey, and in 55 BC, Gabinius, governor of Syria, declared Tsipori the capital of the Galilee. In 47 BC, Herod the Great was appointed governor of Galilee. However, he could not take up his post due to the murder of his father, Antipater, who had previously ruled the country. Herod had to take the city by force and attacked it at the head of his army in a snowstorm. In Herod's time, Tsipori continued to be the capital of the Galilee. After his death in 4 BC, the Jews revolted against the Romans and captured Tsipori, but the Roman army, headed by Varus, quelled the rebellion and burned the city, selling its Jewish inhabitants into slavery. The Galilee subsequently came under the rule of Herod's son Antipas, who rebuilt and fortified Tsipori. In ancient times, Tsipori was a prosperous and well-endowed city with stone-paved roadways, a sophisticated water supply system, a marketplace, bathhouse, and 4,500-seat theater. Today, the star attraction is a mosaic portrait of a contemplative young woman named the Mona Lisa of the Galilee discovered inside remains of a Roman villa. Two 7-minute films provide fascinating background on the site, one of the park entrance and the other in the 5th to 7th century synagogue, whose mosaic floor is decorated with a beautiful zodiac circle. The whole site is wheelchair accessible. It was in Tripoli in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, a generation of two after the Bar Kokhba revolt, 132 to 135 CE, against Rome. The Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi is believed to have redacted the Mishnah, or the earliest codification of Jewish law. The touring route begins at the entrance pavilion, but beforehand, visitors should see the ancient water system, the Mashdad Pool, and the Karob Reservoir. The ancient water system, located at the entrance to the site on the left, 1.5 kilometers east of the city of Tripoli. The reservoir is part of the city's water supply system, which begins at the springs in the Nazareth Mountains near the villages of Mashdad and Renei. The discharge rate of the spring is approximately 40 cubic meters per hour. The water was channeled to the city via two aqueducts. The one at Mashdad was dug into the rock, and the other one at Renei was constructed. The Renei aqueduct led to the giant reservoir east of the city. The reservoir was dug at this point because this is the only high place near Tripoli with chalk rock, which is easy to view. The reservoir is 260 meters long, ranges from 2 to 4 meters in width, and in some 10 meters high. Its total capacity is 4,300 cubic meters of water, which could supply water for 18,000 people for 2 weeks. The water flowed to the reservoir through a sedimentation basin 5 meters deep. Support arches were constructed across the width of the reservoir at certain points. A valve at the reservoir's outlet regulated the flow of water to the city. From this point, the water flowed through a tunnel 235 meters long, dug into the rock by means of 6 vertical shafts. The aqueducts entered the city at 270 meters above sea level, 20 meters lower than the fortress. They supplied water to most of the city. The reservoir reveals two periods of construction. The first is from the 2nd century and the second from the 4th century. The reservoir continued in use until the 7th century. Numerous cisterns were discovered in dwellings in the higher part of the city, in which residents who did not receive the water supply from the reservoir could store rainwater. The residents also utilized spring water, which, although it flowed in the valley, had a stable discharge rate at about 110 cubic meters per hour. The Mashdad Pool, the northern branch of the aqueduct known as the Pool Aqueduct, led water to the Mashdad Pool located at the edge of the city. This large pool, measuring 14 by 21 meters and at least 2.5 meters deep, was apparently a swimming pool. It was probably used only when the flow of spring water was abundant, in the spring and in the beginning of summer. The pool is located on the north side of the parking lot. The Karob Pool, located on the northern side of the path leading from the parking lot to the entrance pavilion. The name derives from the large nearby Karob tree. The reservoir, about 5.9 meters in size, was originally covered by roof supported by 5 arches. It was connected to the aqueduct and apparently predates the large reservoir. The reservoir served as a water tower for Tripoli. Excavation here has not yet been completed. Tripoli's Acropolis covered an area of 35 dunams, equivalent to almost 9 acres. Out of the city, 150 acres or 600 dunams. The water supply to the Acropolis was done mainly by collecting rainwater into cisterns. located beneath the houses and gardens. Dozens of cisterns were found on the Acropolis, and there are more to be discovered. Most water cisterns are bell-shaped and others have no defined shape. The roofs and courtyards served as drainage basins, and the water flowed into the cisterns through canals. They are mentioned as Tzipori gutters in the Talmud language. The Nile House, located east of the Cardo and covering a large part of the insula, at the western entrance on a pavement next to the Cardo, a mosaic floor was discovered bearing an inscription mentioning the name of the mosaic artist. The building had three main wings connected by corridors. At the center of the western wing was a basilical hall bisected by two rows of columns. Additional rooms surrounded an open courtyard in the eastern wing of the building. Among the rooms of the southern wing, which was mostly destroyed, was a toilet. The floors of the building were decorated with a colorful mosaic, some with geometric patterns and some with human and animal plants imagery. Among the designs, a pair of hunters, a centaur holding an object bearing a Greek inscription, Amazons, and a male figure on a hunt, and Amazons participating in a celebration of unknown type. The largest of all the floors was adorned with a spectacular mosaic depicting the celebration held in Egypt when the Nile overflowed, alongside various hunting scenes, an unusual combination attesting to the great artistic skill and imagination of its creator. Street system, an impressive network of streets arranged in a grid dating from the Roman period, apparently the early 2nd century, was uncovered here. The street system indicates urban planning typical of important cities in the Roman Empire. Groups of buildings or insulae were found between the streets. At the heart of the street system were two colonnaded streets, which intersected to create a kind of cross. The Cardo ran north to south, and its cross street, the Decumanus, ran east to west. The streets were paved with hard limestone, while the porticos along both sides of the street were paved with mosaics. The street was lined with small shops which formed part of Tzipori's lower market, mentioned in the Talmud. Ruts can clearly be seen in the paving stones created by wagon wheels that passed this way repeatedly over the years in antiquity. A 7-branch candelabrum, which carved as one of the stones here. Orpheus House, at the heart of the building, measuring 17 by 28 meters, built in the second half of the 3rd century, was a dining hall, south of which was an open courtyard with two porticos. Additional rooms of various sizes were grouped around the dining hall and a courtyard. The floors in this room were all decorated with mosaics with simple geometric patterns. In contrast, the mosaic in the dining hall features 4 colorful panels arranged in an inverted L. The central panel depicts Orpheus, the divine musician, and the others show scene of daily life. Orpheus' house was apparently damaged in the earthquake of 363 CE. Shortly thereafter, the building was restored and a number of structural changes can be discerned. New mosaics were installed, also using geometric and figurative designs. However, these were only partially preserved. public building, in use from the 1st to the 4th century and apparently containing Tsiporis market or agora. It measured 14 by 60 meters, and the entrance was from the east via the colonnaded street. At its center was a courtyard surrounded by columns and rooms with colorful mosaic floors depicting geometric patterns and animals. And here are the 6 orders of the Mishnah. The laws pertaining to temple and its sacrifices, laws regarding to civil jurisprudence and penal law, rabbinical courts, the laws pertaining to husband-wife relationship and marriage, adultery, the laws relating to Shabbat festivities, holidays, the laws for seeds, agriculture, crops, and laws for purity. Monumental Roman building, a building measuring 14.5 by 26.8 meters containing a courtyard surrounded by columns. South of the courtyard were 3 rooms, rectangular niches in the walls of the westernmost rooms probably contained shelves. Later in the Roman period, the building was transformed for private use and was destroyed during the 4th century. The location of the building, its plan, and especially the niches in the western room indicate it might have been a library or an archive. On the slope to the north and outside of the building, a number of large walls were discovered, built of fieldstones and connected to a large foundation. This may have been a monument constructed during the Roman period to overlook the lower city. Dwelling with a mosaic from the Roman period, the Dionysus house. At the top of the hill, near the theater, a mansion was discovered, built in the 3rd century CE and apparently destroyed during the 363 earthquake. The house had an interior courtyard surrounded by columns on 3 sides. On the north side, rooms of a dwelling were discovered, among them a dining hall. Substructures were preserved to the south and under the courtyard, including a row of rooms that served as shops and faced the streets. The rooms of this house were paved with colorful mosaics preserved in the northern part of the structure. The most and unusual of this adorned the dining hall. It depicts the life of Dionysus, the god of wine, in his worships. A woman of rare beauty depicted in medallions surrounding the central panel has been dubbed the Mona Lisa of Tsippori. Fortress, built during the Crusader period on the remains of the earlier structure. The original 2-story building was built out of large dressed stones taken from earlier structures. Roman sarcophagi, some decorated with reliefs, were inserted in the corners of the building. The doorway with its decorative arch and the ground floor wall to its right were built in the 18th century by Dahir ul-Omar. At the end of the 19th century, the building was refurbished and served as a school for the children of Safaria until the War of Independence. The fortress houses an exhibit of archaeological finds from Tsippori. The spectacular view from the fortress roof illustrates the words of the ancient sages about the city which perched on top of the mountain like a bird. From here, the Byzantine-era storehouse uncovered to the south can be seen. The storehouse contained a central hall flanked by additional storage rooms. Toward the end of the Byzantine period, the structure was destroyed in a major fire. Between the fortress and the storehouse, a large cistern was discovered, which was part of the water supply system to the top of the hill. Look out of the convent and the tomb of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiah. The nearby structure is the convent of the Sisters of St. Anne, who ran a school for Arab Christian girls. To the left is the roof of a Crusader-era church built over the traditional site of the house of Anne and Joachim, the parents of Mary. The church contains the impressive remains of the Crusader structure as well as a collection of finds unearthed in Tsippori, including granite columns, capitals, Greek and Aramaic inscriptions from the synagogue, an ossuary, and the stone door of a tomb. In the valley, the tomb of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, the grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, can be seen. It is a grand structure from the 3rd century CE. It contained 11 tombs, in the center of which Rabbi Yehuda was apparently interred. Look out! The theater, built at the end of the 1st century or the beginning of the 2nd century, it seems to have continued in use until the Byzantine period. It was built on the steep northern slope in a semicircle facing the stage. The theater is about 70 meters across and contains some 4,500 stone seats. Some of them were robbed in antiquity. Those that remained were not found in their original location. In front of the orchestra where the chorus stood in the Greek theater and where dignitaries sat in the Roman theater, a stone stage with a wooden floor was built. The plays performed in this theater expressed a clear-cut Roman way of life, hedonist and pagan, which was contrary to Jewish life and culture. The existence of a theater symbol of paganism in a Jewish city raised concerns among the ancient sages. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi taught, "Happy is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor sits in the seat of the scornful." Psalm 1:1. Happy is the man who did not go to theaters and to circuses of those who worship the stars. Another residential area is seen west of the fortress. These are dwellings from the Hellenistic to Byzantine periods. A 1st century building with massive walls had 2 built-in ritual baths. Many houses had underground storage areas, cisterns, and ritual Jewish baths. Its citizens could afford to indulge because their city's fate was very different from other Galilee towns in Roman times. During the Great Revolt, 66 to 73 CE, it surrendered to the Romans without a fight. It was thus saved from destruction and went on to prosper. Tzipori is full of contradictions. On one hand, a place where the Jewish people surrendered to the Roman Empire and was not a part of the Great Revolt. More contradictions are found in the Acropolis of the city. On one hand, Jewish residences easily identify by the dozens of mikvaot or Jewish ritual baths, all in close proximity to a Roman compound. A sizable Roman theater and a Roman villa are all found one next to the other. After the fall of Jerusalem and Masada by the hands of the Roman Empire, the importance of Tzipori for Jews grew. It became the center for the Sanhedrin, and the abundance of Jews in this city is believed to be the reasons why there were 17 synagogues found there. On the west side of the hill summit, rock quarries, apparently from the early Hellenistic period, were the earliest evidence of urban settlement in Tzipori. The first buildings, partly hewn into the bedrock, may be attributed to the Hashmonean and Herodian period, the 2nd and 4th century. The houses in this area were close-set and fronted onto a paved street 2.20 meters wide. Many cisterns and subterranean storerooms were found, some possibly used for storage of agricultural products. The existence of numerous ritual baths attests to the Jewish character of life in Tzipori. The residential area continued to exist throughout the Mishnaic and part of the Talmudic period, with modifications, expansions, and additions to original buildings until the earthquake of 363 CE, which destroyed the entire city. In the Byzantine period, the area was rebuilt, but in inferior quality to the buildings from the Roman period. fortress was built during the Crusader period on the remains of an ancient structure. It was two-story, built of ashlars that were probably taken from the ancient buildings. In the corners of the building there are sarcophagi from the late Roman period, some of which are decorated. A brief explanation of sarcophagi. This is a word that originated in Greek, means meat-eater. A stone container, usually made of hard limestone, serves as a coffin. Use of sarcophagi was common at many sites in Israel during the Second Temple period and the Roman period, and it is possible that a burial in the sarcophagus testified to the high socio-economic status of the deceased. Walking around the fort, you can see that in every corner there are two sarcophagi, except in the northeast corner where there are three. And now we are entering the famous Dionysius house. The Dionysius house is a Roman villa containing a mosaic floor describing scenes from the life of Dionysius. The artistic highlight of Sepphoris is the elaborate floor of an elegant Roman villa known as the Dionysius house. Used as space for entertaining, the floor depicts scenes from the life of Bacchus and images of his followers feasting. The large blank space on the left of the floor would have been for large couches for the guests, and hences were not decorated. Gods and goddesses, mythical creatures, and revelers celebrate the cult of Bacchus. I especially like the image of men smashing grapes by foot to make wine. The 15 center panels depict scenes from the life of Dionysus, the Greek god of wine and revelry, bordered by medallions of acanthus leaves with hunting scenes. Each scene is labeled with a Greek word, a panel displaying a completely inebriated Hercules, labored, meaning drunkenness. But the most remarkable feature of the mosaic floor is an elegant portrait of an unknown woman, the center of one end. The engaging tilt of her head and enigmatic expression have earned her the nickname Mona Lisa of the Galilee. The unknown artist of the portrait used tiny stones in a wide range of natural colors and with an exquisite attention to detail and shading.